Ian, how was your day? Did you do anything fun?
Yeah, I had a pickleball tournament. It was the
Really?
first. It was the first time I picked up a paddle. I almost said racket, but it's a paddle. I picked up a paddle. I got it out of storage, and me and
blew
a
the
good
blew
friend.
the blew the rust off.
Yes, there was a sheen of dust that blew off top.
Yes.
Anyway, we had a 5-team bracket,
Okay.
which is always an interesting number. We played everybody twice,
Perfect.
um, and we ended up 5-3.
Winning record.
And I should have brought the medal. This is a visual medium, and I didn't get a medal.
Oh,
Anyway,
should we
silver.
should we start over? Is this an emergency?
Yes, quick cut. Silver medal. Anyway, we got silver medal. Which was what was really great though was the last game. Mark, we had to win it in order to capitalize on this chance to get to silver.
Really?
This team had beaten us previously, and they were at that point the silver medalist.
So it was like
We
the
were
fourth
able to usurp
quarter
them.
of a game. It
Yes,
mattered, huh?
yes, it was the fourth quarter, no time clock, which we'll
No.
get
Oh,
to.
okay. Okay.
Anyway, we ended up winning the last match 12-10, and it was fantastic. It
Awesome.
was it was indoors, but it still for me was the transition between winter and spring.
First
Even
indoor,
though
because
it
you
wasn't,
you
it was
did
indoors.
play a small time outdoor tournament last summer, correct?
It actually was indoors as
Oh,
well.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, it was indoors. I think that just indoor places have eight
Okay.
courts, and you need eight's the magic number for tournaments. If you have
Yeah.
four courts, it's just too prolonged. So anyway, it was fantastic. I'm
Congratulations.
elated.
Sounds
I'm
like it was fun.
jazzed.
Yeah.
Body held up fine.
We'll see how you feel
I
tomorrow.
I learned the rules again quickly because I was really nervous that I forgotten the rules, which was
Scoring is the hard part, right?
saying three numbers and only two matter is still weird to me. But anyway,
Speaking of
uh,
numbers, three things and all three matter, right? This is a horrible cut, but we're just going to go with it. Sports. The sports topic for tonight is the
sports topic
NBA 2.0. What if
2.0.
nothing in the NBA was sacred and every rule was up for grabs? Okay.
Mind blown. Total
Finance,
chaos.
SPACs. We're going to say that a lot. SPACs.
SPACS.
What are
SPACs.
they? And will they be around in 5 years? And
We're
speaking
not
of
sure.
five, wild card topic, not our top five, objectively the top five. You found a survey.
The
Survey
top
says
five Pop Tart flavors.
that's going to be a heavy hitter. So
Your confectionery treat from
yeah,
us to you, top five. So best one yet. I feel it. Let's hear our
definitely.
three stories. So we got
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
Let's
Let's get into it.
They got red hair, they really don't care what they talk about. They just want to have a good time while talking online. Let's get into it.
Probably our best intro ever. Anyway, so if every NBA rule was up for grabs,
Okay.
what would that look like?
Okay.
So instead of every rule, I'm going to present 4 radical rule changes, and then we'll discuss. But before we get into that, 2 things.
Mm-hmm.
First thing is, I think these are fun thought experiments.
Okay.
They generate interesting, albeit probably never going to happen ideas.
Highly unlikely.
Conversation is what matters, right?
Mhm.
It's thinking outside the box. It's pushing the envelope, so to speak.
It's got to start somewhere, though. So
Got to start somewhere, and start here with us. Number 2 is the All-Star game for
Yes.
the NBA. It
This
was
is your
last month,
inspiration.
February.
Mhm.
Yes. So there was a game winner from who else? Mr. King Cleveland, Mr. James, LeBron.
King James, yes.
I said like 5 nicknames there for him. What was less obvious, though, to the person reading the box score was that there was no game clock during that final play.
No game clock.
The game ended with his shot when his team reached the appropriate point threshold. So this segues perfectly into the first rule change that apparently has been bandied about for some time. It's called the ELAM ending. ELAM, ELAM.
Named after the NFL kicker, Jason Elam.
It must be, right? It has to be. There's no other person.
But honestly, what do we know what it's named after? We don't know.
We don't know.
Else.
Well, that'll be in the show notes.
A man named Max
Anyway.
or Steve, I think. Yeah.
John Elam. Elam.
What is it?
So anyway, what this is, it's designed to have a more natural end of the game. So what happens is the game clock is shut off at the first dead ball under 4 minutes in the fourth quarter or second half. A target score is then established by adding eight points to the leading scorer's team. For example, if the score is 80-72, the two teams will play until someone reaches 88 points.
Why is it 8 points?
Just is perfect number.
Okay.
Well, because this would only happen when the 4 minutes or less clock happens. So the fourth quarter starts, and then when that 4th minute occurs, there's a timeout, and then the refs say, "Hey, we're going to play for additional 8 points." So basically, with no game clock in play, trailing teams are allowed to focus on getting stops and buckets rather than what else? Intentionally fouling, Mark.
Okay, so you hit on it. That's the purpose, right? That's the idea.
So the purpose is basically to get the last bit of the game.
The purpose is
the part of the game that
last 2 minutes
matters
of the NBA can be horrible to watch.
It's hack a shack, right? It's basically utilizing the rule book as it stands to maximize your team's chance to win, but that often doesn't really make for good quality visual basketball.
And the attraction to basketball is, I think, the speed, the skill, the pace, and then that's all out the window.
And that's taken away.
Just
taken away.
Stop.
Right.
Hack. Yeah.
Because basically coaches want to preserve whatever small lead they have. So the
Statistically,
Elam ending is supposed to produce a high level throughput towards the very end.
Okay.
It provides the idea for late comebacks, as long as you can get defensive stops. And as the All-Star game provided, it can provide memorable game-ending moments.
Momentum, flow, inertia.
Right. So this is different though, Mark. This is pretty out there.
Yeah, I've never heard of it, honestly, and I don't think I like it. The reason being, I don't care for the idea of changing the flow of the game for the end. I mean, I guess the flow is changing due to the fouling, but we're going to play the whole game a certain way, and in the last 4 minutes, play a different way.
Basically, you have the game, and then you have like the end product. I think it's interesting. Apparently, the basketball tournament, which, if you recall, is sort of the name of the basketball tournament that occurs where you can create a team and you basically do a huge round robin. So in 2018, they started doing this. Now, obviously, their exposure and ability to change the NBA is pretty limited. It's kind of a small thing. But also, the New Zealand basketball team in May of 2020 was like, "We're doing this. We're going full in." So go New Zealand. I guess
in May of 2020, New Zealand was playing basketball.
They were the country.
Okay,
the
interesting for a different.
Yeah, they were the only ones playing basketball, right? So they make sure they did it right.
Okay.
And then the All-Star game did this. I read about the All-Star game. I didn't watch it, to be honest, but I didn't realize that they were doing this new take. Anyway, so I'm going to ask you, Mark, for all of these on a 5-star scale, 5 being near certainty. Is there any chance this is going to happen, buddy?
What's the floor? Is it 0 or 1?
Well, there's your answer, folks. Well, a 1. Well,
so
okay,
then a 1. If the floor is 1, it's a 1. No, it's not going to happen.
This would take 3 years to explain.
That's
so
the
everybody
problem.
watching
Can't explain to the audience,
understand it.
Not going to happen. Next idea. What do you got?
Next idea. Get rid of the corner 3.
Okay, I can at least understand what that means.
So picture a basketball court.
Yep.
The 3-point line you think is a perfect arc.
Perfect arc all the way.
It is not. However, the line flattens in the corner.
Yep.
Making those shots 1.75 feet shorter.
And it's flat because the baseline runs out.
Right.
There's no more space, and you can't push the celebrities.
You can't push those first seats that go for 10 grand. You can't push any further.
Nicholson needs his front row. So.
Right. So NBA players shoot 40% from the corner as opposed to 36.7 on all other threes.
Statistically,
sounds like a small number.
No, it's a big number. It's a big number. Yeah.
I was going to say it's actually a big number.
Yeah.
So basically, this plan would be to get rid of the loophole, make a perfect circular arc. Essentially, that corner line, though, that have no place to move. And it would drastically change the look of the court.
So my initial answer is no. I think the nuance to the arc makes, like, the variation makes it intriguing, allows for specialists, different strategy. The more I thought about it, though, reading the notes,
I changed your mind.
Maybe, I don't think it changed my mind. Well, I think I'm more willing to consider the idea. The variations could be either push the baseline back, make it longer, or just make that arc flare out, and so the 3-point line doesn't go all the way to the baseline. So I actually, I'd be okay.
What's your number on this one, buddy?
Experimenting with either one. I'm going to give the likelihood of it happening. I'm going to give it 2.5.
2.5. Okay. Okay.
I'm fine.
Good enough for me.
I'll give it.
Good enough for me.
I'm gonna give it a 3. I'm gonna give it a 3. I'm gonna give it a 3.
A whole 3. Okay.
There's a world. There's a multiverse where this.
There's a place that this might happen.
So I'm gonna give it a 3. 3 out of 5. Okay.
Metaverse. Yeah.
Yeah. But that makes me think. I'm gonna pose a question to you.
Yeah. Please do.
Do you think analytics are bad for sports?
I think they can be. I think when you take mathematical analyses and kind of shove them on a game where there's multiple variations, there's thousands of players playing. There's no right way and wrong way to play basketball. It's a sport. It's a game. So when you try to oppose all these rules onto something that's chaotic.
Yes and no. Because I'm going to say with analytics, we basically turn it into a game of blackjack, right? In blackjack, there is a right decision and wrong decision. There is no variation. There's a way to play perfect and a way not to. If you know the percentage shooting of all of your players and where they are on the court and the defensive statistics, theoretically, there's a mathematically perfect way to play. And if you played 1,000 games, if you made the right decision, a certain outcome would happen eventually.
You're not wrong. I mean,
slight tangent, because humans,
in that respect, you would have to move the 3-point line to be a perfect arc, because if there's any baked in advantages, smart teams will just maximize their chances to expose those.
Yeah, that's what you think of with the Spurs or somebody. But I'm going down a rabbit hole, so take me to number 3.
So the 3-point line comes back into play here.
Okay,
and this one is to implement a 3-point quota.
Okay.
So basically, this is for the pundits who say, "Oh my God, NBA is just a bunch of people taking 3-pointers." Right?
These are for anybody who doesn't like Golden State.
Right. So what you would do is you would literally limit the number of 3-pointers a team could take. In this scenario, the hypothetical number of the 20th highest volume in the league, which is the Kings, you would take their number of threes. Let's say they shoot 16. That would now be your number, right? I'm not sure how you'd penalize people for.
I was going to say, is this like using blow the whistle? Is this like using a timeout when you don't have a timeout? A la the Kings, right?
But basically, the idea of this is, if you're the Warriors, how do you allot Steph Curry and Klay Thompson? How do you tell them, hey, you got 8 threes left, use them judiciously? Basically, this also plays into the fact that, although I disagree slightly, the argument is that 3-pointers aren't very entertaining. They're not the rim rattling, backboard smashing dunks.
Game-winning 3 is.
But essentially, I'm going to answer the question for you a little bit in terms of if this is going to happen. I mean, it's silly, I think, in some ways, because you're not going to limit where people can shoot a basket on the court, right? This seems like way too heavy-handed. And I guess the one caveat is that this person said that in the last 5 minutes, you can shoot as many as you want, right? But I mean, this goes back to the first rule where you have a basketball game, and then the last 5 minutes you have a different game.
Yeah. No. 0. Next idea. That's the worst one.
There's no way. Next idea is, I think, the best idea.
Okay.
Relegation. For our football, aka soccer loving fans out there. Football. They've been living in this universe for decades, right?
Yes.
2 worst teams in every conference or division, or however they differentiate teams. You don't perform well, you get kicked down to the next league below you, right?
Relegated.
You get demoted. So basically the idea here is you have 2 teams in each division, and they perform abysmally. They get the push. They get bumped down. 2 teams from the D League in this case, which is our second level division basketball, they would get bunched up. But the owners and money, Mark, what's going to happen here?
Highly unlikely, but I kind of like the idea. I think it's to
great.
Disincentivize losing. Alternative you kind of wrote down here was having the first team outside of the playoffs get the high draft pick with the
So the team that did their darndest
to try
wasn't quite able to bridge that gap. They're rewarded for their efforts or for being close to being great with the first draft pick. I mean, we basically don't want tanking. Tanking is bad for sports.
I think the second one is more plausible. I actually like the first one for entertainment, and I think it makes all of the leagues interesting instead of just the NBA, just the top league.
Yes.
I just think that's kind of interesting. But
I mean, there's a plethora of problems with this because the D League teams are owned, like the Detroit Pistons and the D League team, they're going to swap.
Yeah,
right?
the models, the
But
current models,
the model's broken.
built for it.
But I
right.
think that the soccer thing, which is
Yes.
the global sport, this
Yes.
works perfectly fine.
As with many things, everywhere else in the world does it a certain way.
Yeah. So money, TV owners, it's never going to happen.
Yeah.
But Mark, you've been sitting on a few gems here. You have at least two really good viable takeaways. What are they?
Well, I know about viable. Here's the first one. 82 games. 82 games is too many games.
Too many
and
games.
Because of divisions, West, East, Atlantic, Pacific, Southwest, Southeast, whatever that means, you don't play. It's not parity in the schedule. So instead, you go to a 58 game schedule. Everyone plays everybody else twice. Boom.
Yep.
It's equal, right? Will this happen? No. Because of what you just said.
For the same reasons before, yeah.
Money. Less games is less money, unless there's some other way to make up the revenue. But interesting thought. The one I like better, though.
What's that?
We touched on it. Free throws stop the game. They're terrible.
Oh,
get rid of the free throw line, and instead, you have to make the shot from the location of the foul. One shot, and that shot is worth the value of wherever you were on the floor.
The value
either
where you shot.
Okay. Or 3 points.
This is
two
good.
things, right? You got thoughts?
At least two things.
Yeah.
I think this is a fantastic idea. It's like horse, basically.
Yeah. I mean, instead of, hitting Steph Curry way out somewhere.
Which you wouldn't do at this point, necessarily,
right?
Because he gets a free shot at it.
Yeah. They get the opportunity to make that shot with their skill at that location, right? And also,
I would love if they tried this.
Disincentivize the flopping on junk offensive
when you jump into the
fouls.
person for that 3-point shot,
because now you have to make the shot if you're any good at it.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I think of all the ideas that we provided, this might be the most interesting in terms of this is a game changer that people understand.
Yes,
it's very legible.
I think people like it because no one likes free throws. It'd be something different. It'd be weird, but no one likes free throws. So
people don't even watch them.
You put the ball on the spot of the foul, football, right? And they take the shot.
And then the rebound happens.
How would spacing
game progresses?
I don't know, something like a play, kind of like a face.
And then they make the shot, right? And then So that's awesome. I mean, so basically, this is our attempt at basically redoing basketball. Will any of these ideas happen? We're not sure, but I think it's worth discussing them.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But finance, SPACs, the wonderful SPACs. The more you SPAC, the better you feel. Then you're ready for another meal. Spam. And no, it's not Spackle for the bathroom tile enthusiasts who thought they were hearing a different podcast. Anyway, that's next week.
Yeah, that's gonna be next week, the bathroom tile week. So a SPAC.
Yes.
What is a SPAC? So it's a special purpose acquisition company.
Okay.
So I'm glad they're called SPACs. That's a mouthful.
Yes.
So essentially, this is a blank check shell corporation designed to take companies public without going through the traditional IPO process.
All right. Say that again, but say it differently.
So a SPAC is a company that has no commercial operations and is formed strictly to raise capital through initial public offering, IPO, for the purpose of acquiring or merging with an existing company.
So they are not a business. They don't have a service or a product.
They have neither.
Okay.
They have negative either.
How's it different from the traditional IPO route?
So in an IPO, a private company issues new shares and sells them on a public exchange.
Okay.
In a SPAC transaction, the private company becomes publicly traded by merging with a listed shell company, the SPAC, basically. So
why are we talking about these SPAC acquisitions?
Well, it's SPAC mania. Haven't you heard, man?
I have, yes.
They've been around for decades, but their popularity has soared in recent years.
Last 2 years is when I heard about it. Yeah.
Which is because before 2 years ago, I mean, by comparison, in 2010, 2 SPACs arrived in the market.
What were they? Do you know?
I bet you 2 SPACs happened last week.
Yeah.
No, I have no idea. They're probably defunct at this point, which we'll get to. So the numbers we have first quarter of 2021, if this is correct, which I believe it is, 295 newly formed SPACs
in the first quarter. In the first quarter of 21.
And even the most astute business savvy person
can probably
name 10. Honestly, 5.
Okay.
So anyway, SPAC mania has officially hit.
Why are they doing it?
Here we are. They're doing it.
Why is it a hot thing?
2 reasons, Mark.
Okay, 2.
Time, money. Going public through an IPO is a lengthy process, as it probably should be. This is a big deal.
Due diligence has to be performed.
Due diligence, complex regulatory filings, and months of negotiation. Underwriters, regulators. There's a whole cottage industry that's based on IPO. Come to us. We'll help you get there. It takes months, thousands and thousands of hours.
Which it should, because you should vet a company before they become purchasable. But
completely agree. So the reason for this vetting is because many companies don't make it. Something happens. The due diligence shows that there's a huge deficiency. And so that basically is it deters companies from listing.
Okay.
The whole SPAC thing, basically, it's, you want to do this? Okay, let's do it.
All right.
And essentially they do that. It's a shortcut.
I would say it's cheating, but yeah.
The way I have it written is you get to pass go and get $200 at the same time, right?
Ooh, it's dirty.
It's a faster track to the public market, and it's easy access for investors, right? Okay. Average investors have access to shares of a SPAC as soon as they go public.
Yeah.
Whereas traditional IPO, they're reserved for the higher net worth accredited investors, aka not Mark and I.
Well, it sounds great, Ian. Sounds like we should do it.
Well, buyer beware though, right? When you buy a SPAC,
there's cons.
There's many cons. You're essentially giving your money to the SPAC's founder or sponsor without knowing exactly how the sponsor will invest it.
Here's my check. Look for a company, buy it when you see it.
Yeah.
Because you can't have a company in mind when you form the SPAC.
Right. It's illegal. Yes.
Okay.
So there's a huge lack of information. All the public knows is in advance is the slight SPAC founding member's background and possibly a mention of the industry that they will target. That's literally all you know. There's the lightest requirements for diligence.
So we could start a SPAC.
We probably have, didn't even know it, Mark.
Okay.
We probably have several out there, several SPAC babies.
Okay.
And basically, I will say, because of these reasons, at least the last 6 months have shown they underperform the stock market.
Yeah,
and eventually fall well below the IPO price.
We got DraftKings, Virgin Galactic, Nikola, a broad range of industries, all not doing so hot.
Not doing so hot. I mean, Google them if you want. Take our word for it. Their stock value was dropped precipitously.
Perhaps that means they were overvalued when the SPAC came out, but either way.
Yeah. Either way, they're not doing well, and they are traditional. They are SPACs.
So they've existed for a decade or two, and now they were hot the last 2 years. So what's look like 5 years from now?
Yeah. So the last part of this is let's go to 2027, Mark.
Yeah.
I know it's hard to see the sky for all the flying cars,
block
and the jets and like robot butlers up there.
Yes.
But what are SPACs up to for you in 2027?
For me?
Yeah. What's your hot take on that?
Oh God, they're back to their pre-pandemic levels, if you will. A dozen a year. Yeah.
8 fail.
And the ones that are out there are Ponzi schemes.
Okay. Well, you heard it from him. So I'm going to offer 3 quick insights about what a lot of experts see how SPACs are going to go. So
not us.
So rebranded. So I think at this point in time, people realize they need to be much more professionalized. The low quality sponsors got to be weeded out. And this article suggested that you'll have a couple of successful firms doing up to half a dozen SPACs a year.
Okay.
Right. And these half a dozen will push the industry to be seen as a legitimate asset class and no longer
just too much dumb money out there. That was the problem.
We are flush with dumb money.
Not you and I personally, but
no, anti-flush. Anyway, hot trends. So right now we have the fact that a lot of SPACs are bandwagoning on electric cars, for example, right? They basically are an efficient conduit to pass through regulatory issues, get to the market quickly. But once they're in the market, they're not doing so well.
So they just buy some random R&D company who doesn't know how to actually produce a mass.
So what this is going to do, though, is it's going to kind of push brakes. Brakes will be pushed on this hot seat trend.
Nice analogy.
And the SPAC market will need to be evidence-based rather than sentiment-based.
Okay.
And like I said before,
this is sounding kind of like an IPO to me now.
Yes, we're kind of taking this back, and we're being like, doot, 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 doot. We're kind of taking it back a notch.
All right.
And less. They basically said in 5 years, we're not going to have this crazy onslaught. So yeah, basically, any final thoughts, Mark?
No, I think I said what I had to say. They didn't do well, and I think it's appropriate they didn't do well because due diligence wasn't performed on these companies. So
Yeah,
it was a way for people to get a quick buck.
indeed. And I think that is all the SPAC attack we have time for today. So let's pivot a little bit, way different take here.
This is the most important story of the evening.
Yes, and I'm glad you guys waited patiently for it. We have a list series. So Mark, lists series. Yeah, it's a bit of a mouthful. Mark, you produced a doozy of a top 5 reasons to play pickleball.
I did, independent of your tournament.
Yeah, I feel like all 5 though.
That's what all the
validated
buses these
today.
days.
So anyway, we have a lot of opinions and a lot of correct ideas about the world.
All of them are.
We thought what better way to serve others than by giving them what they want. Lists. Objectively highly curated lists of things. So let's get into our top 5 Pop-Tart flavors.
Ooh.
So here we go. Here's mine. Drum roll, please. Number 5, raspberry. And that's frosted, by the way, without frosted. So
Okay.
Frosted raspberry.
I'm holding my comments until the end.
Classic. A little harder to find, but classic. Number 4, wild berry.
What
You
is
just
a wild berry?
Close your eyes and just picture that little stripe.
Oh, I can see it. That blue
Get the
squiggle.
purple base and then got that squiggle.
It's like a drawing to the promised land.
Transcendent. Oh my gosh. Number 3, brown sugar cinnamon. I know it's different, but all that just comes together really nicely.
I thought you were going to say s'mores next, so I was caught off guard there.
It's too new. Didn't have time
What?
to settle.
Okay.
Compared to brown sugar cinnamon,
Okay.
that's got to be where I want. That's got to
Okay.
be the original.
All right. I don't want to start a fight.
The
Keep going.
number two. These are, 2 and 1 are where we're at here.
Okay.
2 is the frosted strawberry.
Okay.
A lot of folks have this as the number 1, and I don't discount that. It was close, but it does not compare to the frosted blueberry.
How are frosted strawberry and frosted blueberry not essentially the exact same?
The color.
The
Color's different. The color's different.
Is there even any fruit in
Flavor
Pop
wise,
Tarts?
it's not that much.
It's just a different color dye that was used.
If someone asks me what Pop Tart I want 10 times in a row, 8.5 of those will be frosted blueberry. So that just shows you the weighted categorization here.
And to emphasize,
just love
these are
it.
all frosted. Nothing unfrosted even comes close to this list, right?
Right.
Because the
And-
pastry in the Pop Tart is
And largely the internet agrees with that. Yes, you have the actual flavor,
unedible.
and then you have that glorious amount of frosting. We're here for the frosting, and we don't mind the flavoring, but we're here for the frosting. So, Mark,
Yes.
I'm dying to hear your top 5, buddy.
I find the frosted strawberry, the frosted blueberry, the frosted raspberry inedible. Yeah.
What?
No, that's right. I said it.
Inedible. You can't eat them?
It's the sprinkles. They're so
Ugh.
hard and crunchy. I feel like I'm chewing like a PB&J on a
like that.
beach and I got sand in my sandwich.
Yeah, but it's sugar sand.
I'm team wildberry all the way. In fact, I will exclusively eat wildberry Pop-Tarts. Nothing else.
Okay.
Okay.
As long as you're in the berry family, and as long as you're at least advocating,
I'm in the
for
berry
part
family.
of the
I
part of the
only eat
frosted
artificial berries.
environment.
Only the wild. But
So-
here's you didn't mention this.
I didn't mention this at all. Yes.
Toasted or untoasted? Because again, regarding the pastries, I think the untoasted is blasphemy. It's disgusting. I will only eat them toasted. I've definitely burned myself
that's
more
a
than
hot take,
once. Get
literally.
that hot pop tart. I don't know, all over your tongue. But
And it's like tar.
you gotta find the sweet spot. And I'm toasting. I'm not microwave. I'm toasting them.
So it's interesting. I feel like, and I can't prove this, but I feel like most people, when they get a pack of Pop-Tarts, they don't even think about toasting it.
I know. I think you're right too. They open and they eat it, and
It's
to
like
me,
4
it looks like
bites.
a crumbly, doughy, tasteless, bland mess. You got to toast it to bring the heat out, to bring
The pieces of the
flavor
of the
out.
bite. I will say this. I'll say 2 things. The pieces of the bite that are neither frosted nor flavored with the fruit filling are
could cut it off.
incredibly tasteless.
You could throw it away.
Incredibly. It's a negative taste.
I actually don't mind burning those parts because they're so disgusting.
You're supposed to burn them. I think you're encouraged to burn them.
Actually, I take that back. I don't like when they're burned, but
I do think though, like of the last 100 times I've eaten a Pop-Tart, which is a big number to start with, I admit, I probably started with 10, but I think 80% of the time they're untoasted. When I toast them, I'm kind of clueless. Do I have the same setting as for a bagel? I mean, it's a lot thinner, but it's sort of dense. Like what's the sweet spot for toasting?
I can tell you the best Pop-Tart I've ever had in my life.
Please do.
It was my 3 or 4 year anniversary with my wife.
What?
We were in Milwaukee, went to this breakfast joint, and they made homemade Pop-Tarts.
Okay, that's the key.
They were delectable, delicious, just absolutely amazing. If I asked her right now, she would remember them in a heartbeat. I had it was like a blueberry lemon or something, homemade frosting on top.
Lemon is not a flavor you get in the Pop-Tart world.
To die for. It was amazing. I would drive back to Milwaukee right now just for one of those Pop-Tarts.
And you're probably planning on doing it after this pod. You're going to just start hitting the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, well, I think a couple things. I have to figure out how to get the balance right, because you're right. There's nothing worse than burning the Pop-Tart. Then you can't do anything with it. But I just need to be not so nervous about trying. I think my new skill to learn for next week's pod is going to be adult up, figure out how to toast these things correctly, and then make another list of some other confectionery item. You know,
that's all we're doing. We're trying to do a breakfast show.
Well, you suggested top 5 hours of the day, which I keep thinking about, Mark. We've got to do that.
It's a pretty comical idea, isn't it?
After 2, I can't do it. I mean,
yeah.
Well, anyway, I mean, that is the objective list. We have described in perfect completeness the Pop-Tart universe. There is nothing further to say on the topic. It is closed.
We've stated it.
Closed.
Yeah.
We have stated it. We have hit it, and we're going to move on. Well, I'm glad to be done episode 13, Unlucky 13, right? But now I'm hungry. But I'm ready to fire away with another top 10 list very soon. But before we do that, Mark, let's present our all-important takeaways.
The takeaways. You want to take them? You want me? You take them?
Sure, I'll take them. Okay. Sports.
Yeah.
As Mark alluded to earlier, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But do talk about it. And enter the rarefied air of sports talk pungentry.
I think we've entered it. Yeah.
We have entered that air for sure. SPACs, the mischievous little brother of standard IPOs. And because they offer that free turn around the board.
What's with this Monopoly analogy?
That free, I got to go with it, buddy.
We said Monopoly was the worst game objectively.
But it's great for metaphors.
Okay.
Everyone knows about it.
Okay.
What I had there initially was forget a jail card. But I thought the jail thing was a little bit too much. So a free turn on the board.
Okay.
Anyway, they're going to be around for a long time, folks.
Yes.
SPACs are here to stay. Maybe just maybe just not as many. Anyway, listicles, which I Googled before we started this. It is a real term.
Okay.
A journalistic term.
If you say so.
Listicles are a great way to alienate and anger people, but also there is something so fun about ranking everyday items.
Okay.
You quickly get very seriously invested in trying to convince everybody the ultimate authority on trivial things.
Whole websites have created their existence.
The internet is just lists, folks.
Yes.
It's just lists and our podcast.
That's what Al Gore
it
taught us. So,
and climate change is real. Anyway, our outro. Help us grow. Like and subscribe. If you have a free second or two, check out our Facebook page and tell us what Pop-Tart you have burned recently.
Definitely. Hopefully it was Wildberry. Ian, this podcast was wonderful. I had fun, maybe a touch long. I hope you had a good time.
Caffeine fueled, had a great time, super hungry. So this has been Let's Get Into It.
Oh, we had Pop-Tart. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. The content in this podcast is not intended to be a research report, financial, or life advice, and does not constitute an endorsement of any product, service, individual, or organization.